Hey guys, this is Bryn from the Mama on the Rocks, and I'm here with my husband, Spence. He is on Instagram at Grumpy Spence, which he has fully earned that name. So I get to do these expert interviews with you guys every Friday, which is like my favorite. But this week is special. So last month we did a special interview where my parents came on and we talked about how hard it is and how much we struggle with not having support. And we talked about some pretty hard and ugly stuff. My parents and I have been through it. And I tell you guys, this is my safe space too, right? And so I felt like it was really important. Spence and I celebrate our anniversary tomorrow. And we've been together at least 100 years. Listen, he's very lucky. I don't remember that kind of crap. I don't expect stuff. It's fine. And so because of that, we wanted to talk about partnership and extreme parenting, because we know how hard it is. I know that some people in this group have, they're single parents, or they're single parents because they've got a partner overseas. They've got a partner who works full-time plus to make sure that they can have insurance. Everything's been kind of turned on its end from COVID. And so I just want to make sure that we were able to kind of be represented. So I invited some of my very favorite couples tonight. So we have Amy Smith, who's our resident nutritionist. She is a holistic nutritionist, certified in all things wonderful for your body. She's fantastic if you've never talked to her. Melissa Bates, you guys know her and love her because I have her on as much as possible. I call her the chief of my village. She is a mompreneur. She has like 405 kids, 2 of whom are extreme. She really has 4, but listen, once you get past 3, I don't know how y'all do it. Bailey is my fave. She's my girl crush. And her hubby, Jay Rizzle. They're here. They specialize. Bailey's been on here before. She has her doctorate in special education, and she's also talked to us before about that their passion is kind of suicide prevention and just talking about mental health and that platform. And then Lindsay and Doug Little, we actually used to be karate buddies with them. Our extreme child did karate and has done jujitsu since we've moved. And there may be some other couples that pop on, but I want to let you guys know there are a wide variety of diagnoses represented in these households. So we have, to name a few, because I'm sure I will miss them, I'll miss some. OCD, ADHD, severe combined, anxiety disorder. There are a couple of different kinds. We have, help me, I'm forgetting Briggs. Sensory processing. We have autism spectrum disorder. We have Tourette syndrome. We have, what am I missing, you guys? We have
ODD.
Epilepsy. We have DMDD. We have more than, I think at least 3 of us here have experienced our children either making threats or having self-harm attempts.
Yeah, I was going to say suicide depression.
Yep, suicide depression. Yep, for sure. So I want to make sure that you guys know, whether you're here live or whether you watch this on playback, these are the experts of the experts. And I write memes about it all the time, and I will preach it to the day I die, that no one knows our kids better than us. I don't care what letters are after your name. I do not care. And so I wanted to make sure that I had a wide spectrum represented tonight. So the first thing I want to do is kind of open it up to you guys, and I want to ask you, and this is a loaded question, I recognize, but I've invited people that will tell the truth, okay? So I want to ask you, what's the hardest thing about being married and raising an extreme child? What's the hardest part about navigating marriage? Oh. Everyone turned to look at each other like, oh my gosh.
Doing it virtually alone.
Yeah.
I have no family here. My husband has been home 6 weeks in the last 2 years.
No way.
It's fun.
Yeah. Tell me, you guys.
I was looking at Bobby because
I was told to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, and we're sitting here going, where do we start?
Yeah.
Because there's so many facets of it. And I think one of the biggest things for us is how differently we understand it. Like right now, as we speak, our oldest sounds like she's losing her mind upstairs, and we have no idea why. So if I were to go up there, I would handle it completely different than he would, because he's very like logical, and nothing about this is logical. Nothing makes sense. So he doesn't know where to start. He doesn't know where to finish it. He doesn't know. And it's so hard because girls are emotional, and she's very emotional, and he doesn't do emotion very well anyway. So
I feel you, Dawn.
I'm just over here nodding my head up and down because I just said to my husband when I looked at him kind of to get that clarification, like, are we on the same page? Because the hardest part is being on the same page.
yes, yes, it is.
Yep. And one of the things, I'll just jump right into the hard stuff because you guys know I'm not afraid of it. So I told Spence because he was like, okay, so what are we going to talk about? And I was like kind of giving him the rundown, and I go, okay, somebody else actually used the word referee because that's like a trigger button for Spence, because I am notorious, and I don't make things better, I recognize it, is I will say, I feel like I'm refereeing between two 5-year-olds. And my son's 9, but his maturity level is about 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And Spence is 37. Yeah. I'll let you fill in the rest of that sentence. But I'm just kidding, I love you. But
he's more mature than me. It's all right.
So yeah,
She started it.
right. So when you say that, Melissa, that is a big deal at our house. We do not parent the same.
Yes.
Bailey, can you speak to that a little bit from not just a doctoral perspective, but just in general?
Let me just give a quick introduction.
Oh no.
Said you're the referee, and he might be the 5-year-old. It's opposite for us. I don't have a doctor anywhere near my name or fancy letters. I plant trees and dig holes, so I'm a landscaper. But I'm the referee, and she's butting heads with our 14-year-old. Sometimes it feels like a 4-year-old, and I'm like,
5-year-olds unite.
get away from each other. And it's like pouring fuel on huge fires, like in Colorado fires, like that big of horrible times.
Yeah,
so.
I think that's why Bryn and I get along so well, because Bryn is my husband and Spence is me.
That is true. So Lindsay and Doug, how is it in your house? Do you guys see things the same way more often than not, or do you have one person that is the like bad cop, good cop?
So kind of both. We mostly agree on everything. Obviously we grew up with different parenting styles. Being parented, as children ourselves, so that kind of affects how we parent our kids. We try to stay on the same page. Sometimes that means in the middle of me fussing at one of the kids for something, or him fussing at somebody, he just come in the door from being gone all day, and I need to fill him in. Sometimes that's stepping back into a room somewhere and talking.
At least while we're in front of them, we try to appear to be on the same page.
We're like, yeah, Mom said that, exactly. I mean, that it can be a struggle sometimes, especially if he comes home and I've been dealing with it all day, and then I try to fill him in quickly, and maybe he thinks to handle it a different way than I would, and then I have to be like, hey, actually, I'm hot, you're hot, let's chill down for a minute before we handle this, before we hurt feelings more than they should be hurt, obviously, because you don't want to hurt feelings trying to parent.
I'm a yeller.
Yeah, same.
I'm a yeller.
I feel you.
I grew up in a cuss words were adjectives and spanking. So try not to spank, and but I'm a little more like, oh, right now I'm not gonna, but man, I'm like, woo, and I tend to at them. Number one, Izzy. We call them 1, 2, and 3. Izzy, she's like logical, and so if I sit down and explain, I believe that guilt kind of goes a little bit, I don't want them to feel bad, but they need to understand that you hurt mommy's feelings. I'm all right. I mean, you repercussions of what you've done, and I'll be sitting here going, yeah, if you did that and you're an adult, you'd be in jail. And Lindsay's like,
oh my gosh, she says that all the time.
Yep.
Breaks, and I'm like, but they know she's 5. Well,
yeah.
Well, number 2, I'm just sitting here going, we were just now upstairs. I had to go upstairs because, she's like, Rachel, kick her in the face. I'm like, why'd you kick her in the face? Do we let you in the face? Well, then don't kick her in the face.
So yeah, that whole staying on the same page, trying to anyways. Takes a lot of communication.
It does. And I can speak a little bit more to that because of where we used to be versus where we are now, because our kids are a little older now. So our oldest is 14 and he's the one with high functioning autism, who is me. He is the one who we butt heads because we are literally the same person, only he has this diagnosis that takes my personality to a whole new level. And holy shit, like it can get pretty fiery around here. But it really was when we finally got the right diagnosis. And you guys are so far ahead of us, it's not even funny. Like, we didn't get the correct diagnosis for our child until he was 11. I think he was 11 when we finally got the high functioning autism. And you guys, I'm a doctor of special education and I had no freaking idea that my child had high functioning autism. And so that will tell you right there, those letters don't mean crap when it comes to knowing your kids, because you can't tell me that my expertise and my parenting are the same thing. Oh my gosh, it's completely separate. Two different worlds.
Awesome. That's an awesome point. Yeah,
it's one of those things that once we got the right diagnosis and we really dug in to what works in the education world for kids with like Hudson's diagnosis, which is high functioning autism, when I was able to go into that teacher mode, and remember what worked in my classroom when I worked individually with those kids, it changed everything about, hey, thank you. It changed everything about how we parented, because I was able to look towards that education background that I had. And so really, and that's not just my background. That's with talking with a lot of people who know a lot more than I do about it. Parents, doing things like this. So you realize you're not alone. Experts, and there is a reason that a lot of those strategies work, because we don't yell anymore. There's not yelling.
And I was going to go back to what Doug was saying about how you were raised with yelling and spanking. Same with my family. Emotional abuse was just common. We didn't even realize it at the time. Now looking back, we can see how emotionally abusive our father was. And so that's the only parenting style that I knew. So spanking and yelling at Hudson was all that I tried to do. Bailey wasn't raised that way, so that's how I was parenting.
But mine came out in anger because I didn't understand what was happening with our kid.
And so when we finally got that diagnosis, that completely changed my understanding, because now I'm relying on Bailey's expertise and knowledge of how to handle a situation like this appropriately, because my family would have never talked about it. They never would have got the diagnosis. They would have just, be quiet, don't talk about it.
Don't reach out for help.
Yep. And so that completely changed our parenting style, and things have gotten so much better.
Yeah.
Since
so
then.
That is a really good transition into, because I know most everybody here at least well enough to know some about your background. And so, not like in a creeper way, okay, just because I've known you for a while. But to say that, I say that because I know a lot of us grew up in that way. And that was one of the biggest parts. If you haven't watched the one with my parents about support, go back and watch it, because it's gold. They talk a lot about the generational gap and just how they were taught, and that mental health wasn't talked about, and it wasn't a thing. I mean, people at that point still institutionalize their kids. And so that's a good transition, I think, for us to talk about what do we do when we don't have support, or maybe it's support that we have is maybe a little bit toxic for us or for our children. How do we stay happily married? Because well, like our anniversary is this weekend. We planned weeks. Well, I say we. He planned weeks ago, because I don't think ahead with things like that.
She doesn't remember when it is what she means.
Okay.
You do.
Sounds familiar.
I have a wife award for that. First of all.
I'm cool with it, because that means I get at least one big freebie every year.
Yes.
So.
There we go. Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, so he planned with his sister to, which they are safe for us and for our kids, but they live a few hours away. So he had to leave early this afternoon after homeschool to take the kids and drop them off and then drive all the way back here so that we could get like one day to sleep and like, and you guys know, I mean, that sounds wonderful, but one day doesn't make up for every day of your life, right? And in some ways, I kind of think it makes me more short-tempered with my kids when they come back, and then I'm like, like everything's been quiet and it's where it's supposed to go. Like when they come back, I feel like I'm a wreck. So what kind of talk to me about that? What do you guys do? What have you done when you haven't had support? How do you talk to each other about anything that's not about medicine or diagnosis or therapists or appointments? Because holy crap.
There's conversation like that.
We started joining in with each other's hobbies that we love. We started doing those things together rather than him going out and sitting in a tree and going deer hunting on his own. We invested in a bow for Bailey, and I learned how to deer hunt, and oh my gosh, now I'm the one who's begging him to go out in that tree. So that's just one way that we've done it, is kind of combined those passions to where we can use that time for mental health, not only for him, but then we can enjoy that together. We're not even in the same tree.
Yeah,
I was getting ready to say, if I was Jeremy, I would not sit beside you because no way are you being quiet that long.
No.
We had a date night. I sent a picture to my pastor. I said, date night. I didn't include that we're 200 yards apart in a different tree. We can't even see each other. So he's like, no, that's a date. He was pretty proud of us for doing that. But yeah, we're not even close.
Doug and Lindsay are super good at that. Doug does martial arts with the girls, right? Your two
I want to do that.
And I love it. I love it. I love it. Spence did it with Briggs when we lived there in the same place where they live. What do you guys do for that? Because I know you guys like travel as a family when you compete and stuff, right?
Yes. Our daughters.
I do the karate, but she talks about it. So let's just, the floor is yours.
So we never travel apart or anything. I know a lot of couples will like take
What are you
separate
eating?
vacations or whatnot. We travel together as a family with my two oldest girls who do karate, and he does karate as well. And like you said, we don't have anyone local. We were all up in the way.
Sorry, she was eating a palm.
Sorry, daughters on the floor. So yeah, we don't really have anyone around to watch all three children at one time.
I don't think it's probably been 14 months or better or longer than since we've had a night without the kids in the house. Maybe 2 years almost.
Yeah,
So.
because we have a newly 1-year-old. So yeah, martial arts definitely plays a big role because like tonight was Friday. It's their longer karate night. I went along with them. It just means that we get a little bit of chat time in the van while the kids are actually strapped into car seats, and maybe a little chat time in between his class and my daughter's class, and I get to see other actual adult humans that aren't asking me for snacks or to help with iPads. So stuff like that. Obviously, we put them to bed. Usually our night routine is where we get any type of time together.
It's usually about
9:30.
9:30, 11:30, 12 o'clock is about the only, and in that there's at least one, if not two, interruptions. And so, you know, we usually have it's nothing fancy. Like we sit on the couch and eat ice cream and watch episode or two of currently Cobra Kai.
Yeah,
My God.
binged a bunch of it last night.
Why are you guys nerds? I can't take it.
It's so good.
But like Bailey was saying, like, you know, I watch WWE. You know, she's not a big fan of it, but I mean, like, when we had an available babysitter, you know, my parents come up here when they lived up here at Smith Mountain Lake, which is like still an hour or so away. They would keep them on the weekends when they were up here. Dad was building a house. So we took advantage of, oh, you want the kids? Okay, cool. Yes, we'll drive an hour out of the way to drop them off. We had two at that time. But I mean, we just, when the time is there, we find time. And, you know, when we go to Roanoke, we have a really good group of friends, the Averagers. I'm sure, Bryn, you've seen stuff on Facebook. And so when we go to it's almost like a break when we go to run and eat lunch with our friends. The kids are still there, but they're crawling all over them.
Yeah.
Them.
Yeah, when we lived in Ohio, that was what we did with Melissa and Bobby, because our kids, even though that made 6 kids together, 3 diagnosed, it was like they at least were running around together. So it was like controlled chaos. So I totally, completely get that.
Well,
Right.
and after 4, it doesn't matter how many kids there are. So.
Well, we don't. I mean, we have friends with kids, and so like, but usually it's
Most of them are at
karate or dance. So you know, when we go on a, I'll probably talk more about the karate group because I don't know, that
We're
a
there.
little more tight knit. We're there every day of the week. So we go to a tournament or whatever, and like there's other parents there and other kids there. You know, we go to karate, and when it's Izzy's class, she's in class, and Rachel goes to the back, plays with Noah or whatever, and the other kids. So I mean, that's like our small little moments. But I mean, we do take our moments apart. Sometimes I'll take the girls, and the best thing for us is for her. You know, I'm a happy wife, happy life kind of person. So like for her to have an hour of just the baby helps our marriage more than a date night would sometimes. So, you know, I'll take the 2 oldest ones to karate or just like groceries or let's run to Lowe's. They're thinking, yay, time with daddy. And I'm like, yay, mommy gets a break, you know. So
I'm like, yay, laundry.
right.
Oh,
Yeah, that's pretty much what we do. I mean, we just
Take moments where you can.
you take the moment when you can.
Bobby,
It sounds weird, but don't underestimate like having extra kids in your house. I know that sounds so weird, but we will let our kids have sleepovers at our house. We're pretty picky about letting them go to other people's houses. Just because we're just those people, but a lot of times, not a lot, but we'll let them have sleepovers where they both have a friend over. We don't hear from them
Mhm.
like for hours, and we just check and make sure they're all still breathing. But you know,
Yeah.
so those trusted friends who have kids around our age, we'll sometimes call them and be like, yeah, we need your kids. We're going to need to borrow them. and it really, it works. It works really well. So,
well, I could talk to you guys for 100 hours. We're coming up on time already. But here's what I want to ask everybody, each couple, I want everybody to answer this before we go, is kind of thinking back on the process of diagnosis, of going through all of that, or of deciding to diagnose or not diagnose, medicate or not medicate, all of the stuff that goes with that. What is something that you would suggest to, you know, a couple going through this that has been helpful for you, or maybe something you did wrong that would be helpful to encourage another couple to support each other? Because like we've all talked about, everything that every one of us has said, everyone else has been like, yes, definitely. So I think we can all see that we're in this together and that we're not alone, which is my dream for this group in the beginning. Because I knew that there was no way I could have been the only one going through this when this all started for us years and years ago. So I would love to hear from you guys. What's something you would suggest? Because man, this is not easy. And the divorce rate is wildly higher. For
me, because he's gone, I have to basically give him the information, and then we have to figure it out and have a conversation, because he's not here to hear what her therapists or her doctors say. So the only way he finds anything is if we have that conversation. I mean, he can't really hear it from halfway across the world.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be able to talk and make that decision together. And that's the only way we've been able to get through it, because I've been doing it basically on my own since before her diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
So conversation is really the only way to make it work.
Yeah.
I would also recommend that both parents sit on those therapist meetings. Having her try to explain to me what Braylon was doing during her therapy meetings, I just it didn't make sense. It didn't add up. I just thought she was acting out at times, and losing her crap for no reason. But when you listen to the therapist talk to her and go, yeah, this is exactly what we know. Yeah, this is exactly what we see. Yeah, this is your normal. It really made a difference, because you can't just call somebody up. I was working 8 hours a day away from home. She would call and say, well, this is what the therapist said. And I'd say, okay, whatever. Let's roll with it, whatever. But hearing that from the actual therapist made a whole lot of difference.
And there's some, at least for us, there's some difference with background, because I have a social work background. I've worked with kids with mental illness, adults with mental illness. So I understand a whole lot differently than he does.
I don't understand at all.
Well, he's an accountant, so his mind is black and white. There is no in between, and that is exactly opposite of how mental health works. So for me to explain to him things, sometimes he has to experience it and like basically kind of walk him through when she's having a meltdown. Okay, this is what she's talking about. This is when the therapist says to do this, and like help him through that and show him those kind of things, and use that communication and really
Can't say that to her. That doesn't help.
Yes, there's a lot of that. Yeah. There's and honestly, there are times when like he's the screamer, and I mean, don't get me wrong, I scream too, but he doesn't have that. He's just built differently. Guys are built differently, and it's nobody's fault. They're just built differently.
I lose my ish when disrespect starts going, and it just keeps going. And
he does.
I cannot stand to have her yelling.
Otherwise, if I didn't yell it, no one heard it. It's
yes.
But at least I know everybody heard it when I yelled.
Yeah,
yes.
Exactly.
And
I want you to know I'm defending you here.
I have to step in and say, and literally put myself between them and go like this and say, okay, you're done. Take a step back. You're not being helpful. You're making it worse. And just be that. And then he goes, make a drink.
We have a safe word.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pineapple.
Chipmunk.
Yeah. When we say chipmunk, that means he or
Chipmunk.
whoever didn't say it has to stop immediately and walk away for at least 5 minutes to cool down before you can revisit the issue.
Yeah.
Kids too. We've told the kids, hey, here's a safe word. It doesn't work as well with them, but at least one of us is getting heated, and we see it's not in a productive direction. We can be like, hey, chipmunk, and you have to stop and walk away.
I mean, logic would dictate stop, but it just doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't happen.
I like chipmunk.
Yeah.
Bubbles.
I'm guessing Bobby in the red shirt on my right screen. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't here for introductions. I'm kind of the same. I mean, we're not currently medicating. And see, the problem was okay, I'm not trying to rank here, but we had a really easy first child. And it'd be like, she'd do something wrong and done. That was it. That's all it took, a look. And then the next one, I'm like, and she's like looking right back at me. Dad, babies, when they watched her for the first time, her new name is Little Douglas. That is her nickname. And Dad's just sitting here laughing and going, I'm glad. You'll see what you put us through, kind of thing.
Because
His dad has said the same thing.
And then apologized many times since then.
He hasn't been officially diagnosed either, but he has plenty of markers for some of the things that she does. And so I can see it because I'm here watching them talk to each other or watching how he handles this, and I handle him the same way I handled her.
It's like, quick,
I would hug you so hard right now if I was in your living room.
Yes.
So sometimes it works better on him because he is the adult, but at the same time, sometimes I have to keep repeating myself, and I'm like, how do you not get this? And you expect her to get it. So,
well, it's just, I'm not an accountant, but I mean, we're self-employed, and I do a lot of like number crunching. And I deal with, type A, I deal with 100, we have like 100 and some tenants that we deal with across the board. And I'm just sitting here thinking, it's so hard, and it's just like, just do the right thing. Like, I deal with people that don't do the right thing, and I wrestled in high school, and I was in ROTC, so it's like, and then of course, right, Dad was a Marine, and so I grew up and all that stuff, and so very strict, very in line, routine. I've got color coded calendars and all that good stuff, and it's just very like, I mean, I'm sure whatever, if we do end up going to a therapist or whatever, you know,
They know about our OCDs.
in 6 months I'm gonna be going, wait a second,
Yep.
are you using your voodoo magic on me? Is this what
Okay, we've got 4 minutes. Bailey, talk to me.
we can do it?
Oh, okay.
What you
I think the best advice that I can give is to get really good at communicating what you need yourself. And not only communicate it to yourself, but also to your spouse, because if you do not take care of you, there's no way that you have anything left to give to those children, or to your spouse. So like, I am very protective of my bath time, extremely protective of that. That is my place. That is my time. My husband is very protective of his hunting time, of his time in church. He likes to go to church. That is not something that I like. Okay, it's not that I hate it. It's just that that's not like my comfort place. So we have gotten to the point where if he wants to go to church and I feel like going with him to that place, then I will. But if not, he can go on his own.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's just being respectful of our own comfort zones in
Yeah.
order to maintain that mental health zone
Yeah.
that we have to have.
I would
So.
say, going off of that, we went to a marriage conference. It's been years ago now. But one of the things that they said, and we haven't done it lately, maybe we'll do it this weekend, I don't know. But
Yay.
no, it was like, I thought it was a really good, really easy exercise. Is they would say, like, every once in a while, surprise your spouse by asking them, what's something I can be doing better for you? And I'm very, very logical. I'm a very logical, rational, analytical thinker. I'm the type A in our house. So I feel like I won't ask a question that I'm not prepared in my heart and mind for the answer. So you better believe in 15 years, I've never asked him if I look fat in something, because I don't want to hear the answer. I just don't do it. No, thank you. And he knows this. So sometimes it's hard to answer, and I'm somebody that's very quick to answer. He's somebody that has to process longer. So it's about respecting that boundary and understanding that just because he doesn't answer me doesn't mean that he doesn't have something to say. It just means that it might take him a little bit longer. Did you have something to add to that?
No, I was just listening.
Okay.